And I think what is so powerful about the FIRE movement is the hope that you get in terms of that you don't have to keep working a job that you don't like. Hey guys, in this video I'll be talking about two different things about the FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. The first thing I want to talk about is the basics, what it really is and the concepts behind it. And number two is my journey with the FIRE movement. And let's get right into it. So the FIRE movement is all about financial independence, pretty much, where you are making and having passive income that is equal or more than how much you spend in a given year. So there was a quote that I heard, I'm not quite sure the exact wording of it, but I believe it went along the lines of there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is that you have a lot of money, but being wealthy is about the measure of how many days you could go without having to work. And essentially, if you have investments and money and passive income that comes in that covers all of that, then you are truly wealthy because you don't have to work. If I were to condense the FIRE movement into one word, it's freedom. You grant yourself freedom to do whatever you like to do with your time. And obviously time is something that we all have that is limited, and that's something that we can't just get back. Money you could spend and obviously earn it back, but time is not something that you just get back. And for me, I think that was what intrigued me the most. And I think that's what intrigues the FIRE movement to most people, you know, and I think they just don't want to get caught up in a dead-end job that they don't like. They want to make sure they have an exit plan. And for some people, sadly, that they could never retire because they don't have that source of income that comes in and that could cover what they spend, whether it's housing, food, or even fun money that they have. With the grand level of what financial independence looks like and how to do it, it comes down to pretty much three different steps, where first is you save. You save money that you work and keep your expenses low. And obviously, when it comes to saving, you know, if you're spending more than you are making, then obviously you can't save. And so what most people do is they try to maximize how much money they can make, mostly to do with their main job or through even a side hustle. And then they actually keep their expenses low as much as possible. That is making sure they spend mostly on need rather than wants. Obviously there comes a balance where you should still spend money where it makes you happy, but they try to cut off any type of excess spending. Once someone is able to maximize how much money they save, they go ahead for the second step, which is investing. And this comes in different ways. Obviously there's stock market, there's bonds, there's real estate. Nowadays there's also crypto, and it's all about having your money work for you. And this is where the passive money comes in, that you're able to have this money work for you so that it will have a rate of return that is equal to or greater than your annual expense. Obviously there's a lot more detail behind that and how to do about that, but in this video I just want to go through just a grand scheme of things of what the basics of the FIRE movement is and how someone could achieve it. Now, once someone is saving a lot of money and they are also investing that money, and the third and last step is figuring out how much money you could take out. There's a brief rule of thumb in the FIRE movement community called the 4% rule. And the 4% rule is basically stating that if you have money that is invested into the total stock market or an index fund, then you should be able to withdraw 4% in even a down year or up year and never be able to run out of money. So one way to think about it is if you have, let's pick an easy number, $100,000 that's saved up in the stock market, then you could withdraw $4,000 out of that $100,000 and never run out of that initial $100,000. Obviously, a lot of people can't live on $4,000, And so if you have $1 million saved, 4% rule grants you that you could spend $40,000 and never run out of money. So the more money that you have saved, invested, and working for you, the more money you could take out. That's still staying within the 4% range. Through this calculation, you can obviously see how much money you have saved and how much money you could take out. You could also do the opposite, where most people do, see how much money they spend in a given year and multiply or divide it by 4% or multiply that by 25 to get to their goal number, to see how much money they need to have invested so that they could actually have the same amount of burn that they usually have, or burn as in how much money they spend. So again, if you have $40,000 that you spend in a given year, if you multiply that by 25, then you should be able to get $1 million as your calculation. And that's what your end goal should be in terms of how much money you need to FIRE. So I think that was a brief overview of what the FIRE movement is and how people are trying to achieve FIRE. I think the greatest thing about FIRE is just the hope that you don't have to keep working and doing, obviously when you're working a 40-hour job or 40 hours a week a job, or even 50, 60 hours, you're spending a vast majority of your weekdays just working, and sometimes you're spending more time at work than family or friends. But I think with the FIRE, you're able to travel, you're able to work a job that's less stressful, you're able to volunteer on the side. Your life doesn't revolve around work. And I think what FIRE also gives you, and I think not everyone needs to FIRE, but I think just having that financial independence gives you that security to take risks. And I think that's also the second biggest thing about FIRE, is that you're able to take a risk in your job, or speak out, or you're able to even try a business idea out and see if that works out. And at the end of it, you are aware that you have money that you have saved. And obviously they call it nest egg, but it's also somewhat of a safety bag, is that if you fail or if you fall, that it'll catch you. And if you have a big enough one, that you just don't almost care whether or not you fail, but you at least give yourself a chance to try it at least. And I think this is what really brought me into being interested in the FIRE movement, because of that freedom, that hope, and that ability to take a risk is so important, that it gives you so much, confidence and so much safety, that, or security, that you're able to really, try things that you want to do, that you don't necessarily need to go to work if you don't want to, or you don't need to pursue a career just for the money, and I think that just opens up so much opportunity. But briefly going into my journey with it, I don't know when I found out about the FIRE movement. I've always been interested in personal finance, obviously, given that for me, I grew up in a single parent home where money was really tight, and so for me, I had to start working when I was 14, and obviously with that, you have to manage money well. I've always been somewhat frugal. I don't like spending money on the things that I don't like. Obviously, when you come from a low-income family or background, it's harder to just feel like you could just spend money freely. And so my frugality definitely comes from that. So although I can't really pinpoint an exact time when I found out about FIRE, but I know that what intrigues me the most is that quote about the difference between being rich and being wealthy. That if you're wealthy, you could stop working today and still cover your expenses. And I think that just frees up so much opportunity in terms of whatever you want to do, And I think for me, I'm in a career that pays decently well, but it's not really helping people out. It's just helping big companies make more money or save more money. And I don't find myself being truly excited or feeling like I'm making a difference. And I think FIRE is just the idea or the hope that I don't have to keep pursuing things that I don't want to. And obviously for me, this is actually contradictory in terms of making me productive or a good employee, given that, you know, the more freedom I'm able to grant myself, the less I need to depend on others, or the less I need to almost, you know, swallow my pride and just listen to my manager or something like that. Obviously for me, this is my personal journey. I'm not at that final goal yet, but I'm hoping that I can continue to work towards that. And that hope that I don't have to work a job that I don't like gives me that, you know, that light at the end of the tunnel, to not feel like I'm just in an endless cycle of, you know, wake up, work, go home, eat dinner, sleep, you know, work again. Just to start wrapping things up a little bit, there are differences in terms of what types of FIRE there are. There's coast FIRE, lean FIRE, fat FIRE. These are all different types of FIREs that depend on how far out you want to retire. If you want to retire now or later, or with how much money you want to FIRE with. Especially if you have a lot of expenses with kids, a house, a car, and, you know, or expensive stuff, and even having a lot of fun money to go along with it. But I think, you know, if FIRE movement is something that intrigues you, it's something that you just found out about, I challenge you to just look into it more and see what intrigues you the most. Is it the hope, or is it the security that you get? Is it the opportunity to take risks? And I think, you know, these are all good things about FIRE that helps you to understand what you don't like about your current circumstances, and what you're trying to do about it. For me, I love personal finance, and FIRE movement is a huge part of that, for me at least personally. And so I would love to hear about your thoughts about the FIRE movement. Do you think it's too extreme, too frugal? Do you feel like, you know, does that miss the point of having a good career? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.